Hello, everyone, and welcome to Intercessions. I apologize for the delay in this interview, but I am so excited to be talking to Dr. Penelope Adinku today, who unfortunately I have not had the pleasure to meet in person yet, only virtually, but I'm looking so forward to having our paths cross in person one of these days, hopefully in the future. Dr. Adinku is a cardiothoracic surgeon. She completed her cardiothoracic surgery fellowship training with the West African College of Surgeons in April 2022 and became the first ever female Ghanaian cardiothoracic surgeon. She graduated at the top of her class as the best candidate at the 2022 fellowship examinations in the specialty of cardiothoracic surgery, and also was inducted as a fellow of the West African College of Surgeons in March of 2023. Dr. Adinku has over 12 years of experience working as a medical doctor in Ghana. She currently works with the National Cardiothoracic Center, Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital, which is Ghana's premier heart center and the main tertiary center for referrals for cardiothoracic diseases, both adult and pediatric. She is a recipient of the 2023 Valerie Rush Career Development Award and is also a patron of the Association of Future African Cardiothoracic Surgeons and heads the medical outreach committee of her church, which undertakes programs to reach out to local communities within Ghana. She is absolutely passionate about mentorship. And so in addition to mentoring upcoming young female surgeons, she honors invitations to speak to various groups of people, from medical students to high school students and female groups, and surgery residents in Philadelphia. She received her senior secondary education from Wesley Girls High School and her medical degree from the School of Medical Sciences, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. She has a membership certificate in general surgery and a fellowship certificate in cardiothoracic surgery from the West African College of Surgeons. Dr. Adinku is married to Mr. Ernest Adinku and is a firm believer in breaking the bias against women and inspiring more women and youth at large to reach for the sky. Dr. Adinku, thank you so much for joining me today. I cannot tell you what joy it brings me to speak to you and to be able to share your story with others.
Thank you, Carissa. It's a joy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course, and thank you for accommodating my many attempts at rescheduling. So tell me, Dr. Adinku, you have had such an interesting career so far, and it's really just in its beginning stages. This is a really interesting time. I think in your training, people will say that the first 10 to 15 years as an attending can be or a consultant, as you would say, can be the most challenging times in a junior surgeon's life. So I think you have a lot of wisdom for young surgeons and young people. So congratulations, first of all, on this tremendous accomplishment. And tell me how you got here. What made you go into medicine?
Okay, so growing up, I grew up mainly in the suburb of Accra. Accra is the capital of Ghana. And my family, I come from a family of 6, my parents and then 3 sisters. I was exposed to science early on. My dad is a pharmacist.
Okay.
And my older sister, Grace Imelda, she's a medical doctor.
Okay.
So I always knew I was going to go into the sciences.
Okay.
And so, I attended Wesley Girls High School to pursue science, after which I went to the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology to pursue medicine.
Okay.
During my final year of medicine, I was in a rotation in surgery for my senior clerkship. And I was just fascinated by how patients will come with one problem or the other, and they got to go back home without that problem. They'll have surgery, and then the problem was solved, and they go back home with their burdens lighter. And I figured that that's what I wanted to do, to lighten the burdens of people, to have my patients come to me and go home lighter. So that's when I decided to do surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, Dr. Adinku, for the people in the United States who aren't familiar with how medical training in Ghana is achieved, here we do 4 years of undergraduate education and then 4 years of medical school, and then we decide on a residency. Do we want to do surgery or internal medicine or something else? What is it like in Ghana?
Okay, so for Ghana, right from when you finish high school,
Yeah.
you can choose whether you go into medicine straight away. You don't have to do um, graduate school first or anything like that. You just go straight into a 6-year medical school program,
Okay.
which I did. So after medical school, completing 6 years of medical school, um, you you have to do an internship. We call it housemanship for 2
Okay.
years.
Okay.
Yes,
And that's in what? Um, in general internal medicine?
that's what I talking about, the housemanship, the internship.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so it's in 4 rotations. Mainly 6 months of general surgery,
Okay.
6 months of internal medicine, 6 months of pediatric, and then 6 months of obs and gynae.
And where in
So
that
it's like
course did you have surgery? Towards the beginning, the middle, or the end?
in the beginning. So because I knew that from medical school, my final year of medical school, that I wanted to do surgery.
Okay.
When it came to internship, I started with surgery.
Wow, that's cool. I love how you knew quite early on then. I think there's a lot of people who go through 4 years of medical school and then in their last year decide that they want to do surgery and then are sort of scrambling to make that happen. But it's nice that you had that exposure early on and realized that was something you were very passionate about. Do you remember the first surgery that you saw?
Do I remember
The first surgery that you saw when you were
the
medical?
first surgery I saw?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was a hernia. A hernia being repaired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you remember how you felt
So
watching it? What was your impression of what was going on? Were you scared? Were you nervous? Did you faint?
I no, I didn't faint. I guess I was just intrigued by what was going on.
Absolutely.
And like I mentioned, yeah, I was just fascinated by one moment the patient had this bulge, and then after surgery, no more bulge.
Yeah. It's
I Yeah, it was intriguing. So
yeah. The immediate gratification, it sounds like was
yeah,
very impressive to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that. Then subsequently, I saw more surgeries, and then I became convinced that that's where I wanted.
Absolutely. And so then you started your general surgery training. And how long is that in Ghana? How long is just
Okay,
general surgery?
okay. So general surgery is 3 years for a membership certificate
Okay.
before further to do a subspecialty if you want.
Okay.
So you do years of general surgery.
And then at what point did you decide that you wanted to become a cardiac surgeon?
Okay, so before starting the surgery program in the first place, I knew I wanted to do cardiothoracic surgery.
Wow.
And yes, so when I entered the general surgery program, unfortunately, I didn't get to rotate through the cardiac floor,
Sure.
but then I went to other floors, and a couple of them confused me a little bit. By the end, I still stuck to cardiac surgery.
And so most general surgery residents in Ghana, I think it's the same as here in the United States. Most general surgery residents don't do a cardiac surgery rotation. So it's actually kind of difficult to get exposure to cardiac surgery if you're a general surgery trainee.
Yes, but
Yeah.
things are a little bit different now. When I was training, the schedule is drawn, and some of us get to rotate to neurosurgery, and then some get to rotate to cardiac surgery. It was either or,
Or,
and
oh,
the choice was made for us before starting the program. So I was put in the neuro batch. That's why I didn't get to do cardiac surgery. But now it's the 3 months have been divided into 6 weeks of neurosurgery and then 6 weeks of cardiac surgery. So the current crop of residents in general surgery get exposed to cardiac surgery.
and tell me, what was your first impression of the field of cardiac surgery as a resident? What did you think?
Okay, so well, getting there, I I guess I was unprepared for what
Yeah.
I was expecting there to be a little room for maneuvering like over the weekends, but I realized that the schedule was like Sunday to Sunday, like you had to work everything every single day.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it is a male-dominated field. I was the first female, and initially they probably didn't know what to do with me.
Yes.
So I guess I felt that I had to prove myself.
Sure.
So, and I'm sure a lot of females face this in various countries that they find themselves in, like when you find yourself doing surgery, you're in a male-dominated field.
Yes.
I was a little used to that because when I started the general surgery program, the whole 3 year batch, I was the only female, so I was
Really?
quite conspicuous. Yes,
Okay.
first year, third year, I was the only female across all the three groups. So I I was very visible. I
Yeah.
couldn't hide. And that made me all the more determined to work hard to prove myself and to stay.
Wonderful. And did you ever think that this was something that you could not do? Or it just seemed natural that this would be the path that your career took?
Okay, so talking to a few people before the program, um, I heard all the scary stories
Yeah.
about surgeries and cardio.
Yeah.
Um, you wouldn't have time for family. It's so intensive, so exhausting.
Yeah.
I mean, but I was fortunate that my family encouraged me to go for it because they knew that I really wanted, it was something I really wanted to do. And so going into it, I had this whole idea or mentality that I was going to be very, very strenuous and rigorous. But
Yes.
I guess the scary stories helped because then when I entered into it, I realized that it wasn't as bad as they made it. They made
Yeah.
it seem. So I guess that
Yeah.
was good in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was what did you think would be bad about it? And then what ended up being surprising to you?
Okay. So I expected to have zero time at all with my family,
Yeah.
and surprisingly, it wasn't like that. But I think also that it's because I have a supportive family. My husband is always there for me,
Yes.
and he wants to check on me even at work. My sisters, um, anything I need done at a particular time that I cannot do myself, they were very open to help me achieve it. So I think it made my work, my residency easier, having a very good support.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as with anything, once you start your training, your coworkers become sort of your family too. That's you spend so much time around each other that you inherit a second family of people at the hospital. And I think support from them is probably very important too.
I would say that. I mean, in the beginning, uh, not having had a female in that setting before. I guess they were a bit wary, but then as they got to know me, as they saw that I was willing to work and to stay,
Yeah.
they warmed up to me, and some of them have become fantastic friends.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful.
I'm sure. I think the bonds formed in surgery training are very, very special. It's a very special time to form relationships with people. I'm sure that those friendships will last a lifetime.
I hope so.
Now, tell me, Dr. Adinku, who were some of your earliest mentors, both in general surgery residency and then subsequent cardiac training? Who did you look up to, and what did you take away from them?
So my general surgery mentors are Dr. Antoinette Bowen and Dr. Josephine Inspo. They are female general surgeons, fantastic general surgeons. And I mean, they had charted the course before, many years before me, so they knew the challenges that I would face, and they were always ready with open arms for me to come to them with any problem. I mean, they were not soft on me, but they encouraged me to achieve the best of my potential, and I'm really grateful for them in my life.
Yeah.
Recently, I met Dr. Emily Farkas,
Yes.
the cardiac mission to Ghana,
Yes.
and I was impressed not only by her skill, but by her passion, her commitment to cardiac surgery, and her empathy for
Yes.
patients and wanting to bring out the best in everyone around her.
Yeah.
And it's really inspiring. So she's one of my mentors in cardiac surgery.
Yeah. That's nice. And then I'm sure that what you are looking for in a mentor changes at different stages of your career. What you look for as an intern is very different from what you look for as a senior resident, and then as a fellow, and then as a consultant. I'm sure that what you have looked for has changed too over the decades of your training.
Definitely, I'll say so, but some principles remain the same. I believe mentors generally should look out for the weaknesses and the strengths in their mentees. And these people I've mentioned have done that across the years. They have looked out for my weaknesses and pointed them out to me and helped me work on them. And then for my strengths, they help me harness them and become better. So I guess generally I would say that the things I looked for in the mentors over the years remain the same, maybe a few differences along the line. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. And so tell me, what are the things that you have had to consciously work on? What have you struggled with over your training in terms of, you talked about your weaknesses. I'm sure that you have many, many more strengths, but what have you had to make? We all have to make a conscious effort to work on some things. What have you had to work on?
So I was shy and introverted.
Yes.
So I really had to work on that.
Yes.
My presentations and interactions with people, I've had to work on that aspect of me and become more interactive, and then more confident
Yes.
in my presentations.
Yeah, I think the surgery is a very dynamic field, filled with very big personalities. So I think it's hard to be very introverted and quiet and get where you need to get. I think in the surgical world, you have to,
Definitely,
yeah, you have
definitely as
to,
a female.
exactly,
Yeah,
and the gender dynamic changes it too pretty considerably.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. So I found that I had to work on that quickly
Yeah.
to be able to thrive. in
Of
my
course.
environment.
So tell me, Dr. Adinku, what is the culture of surgery like in Ghana? If you had to describe the atmosphere, the ambiance, the energy, describe the energy of an operating room.
Well, it's very interesting. It varies actually from discipline to discipline because you have different types of personalities. So in the OR, there are consultants who are very calm and they forgive minor mistakes, and there are
Yes.
those that will just shout.
Yeah. I think that's
So
true in both of our worlds.
yeah, so the environment varies depending on which consultants you are operating with and which specialty you are operating in. Generally, cardiothoracic is a high energy
Yeah,
field, field. So
yeah,
there is a lot of shout,
of course.
but then you have some calm cardiac surgeons too.
Yeah.
So
I, I ask because I think cardiothoracic surgery is a uniquely intense field in terms of seconds really do matter. It's a little bit different than doing a laparoscopic cholecystectomy where you have some time to talk through the case as you're doing it. It's uniquely high stakes in many ways. So
one consultant said the abdomen is forgiving, but the chest does not forgive.
exactly.
So the stakes definitely are higher,
Yes.
and like I mentioned, seconds do count. So I'm kind of able to make mistakes. So
Sure. Do you, is there is there oh, I'm so sorry. Is there a
don't
particular
worry.
kind of case that you enjoy the most, or what technically in terms of what do you surgically enjoy doing in the field of cardiac surgery?
Hmm. Well, I'm not sure I'm particularly uh, inclined towards one case over the other. Maybe in Ghana we do everything, both thoracic and cardiac.
Okay.
So I'm a bit more biased towards the cardiac cases. I prefer doing
Yes.
the cardiac case over the thoracic cases.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And tell me a little bit then about the burden of cardiac disease in Ghana. What are the most common pathologies that patients will present with? And how might that be different than what we see here in the United States?
Okay, so what we see more here in Ghana are the congenitals,
Okay.
and more commonly VSD pathologies. So we do a lot of VSD repairs, and then there's ASD repair, and then tetralogy,
Okay.
of yes. So more commonly we find ourselves operating in the pediatric field, but then for the adults, what we come across are the valvular pathologies. So we do a lot of valve replacements.
Okay. Okay. And tell me, will your future lie in the adult cardiac world or the pediatric cardiac world?
And I mentioned in Ghana, we have to do everything, but I'm a bit more biased towards the pediatrics.
Oh, really? Oh, this was interesting. I don't think we actually got to talk about this yet. So you find the pediatric world more compelling.
I do. There's a broader spectrum for
Sure.
pediatrics. There are more cases to do. I like children, and so it's an easier environment for me. And
Sure.
then yes, I like the technical challenges that it brings along with it.
Absolutely. It's the pediatric world is incredible. I completely agree with you. It's such a special place. Um, so what would that mean, Dr. Adinku? Would you have to get, if you wanted to specialize in pediatric cardiac surgery in Ghana, what further training would that require,
So
if
it
any?
would so to involve me going out for a year or two to
Okay.
pursue a subspecialty in pediatric cardiac surgery. So
Okay.
that's
And then if you don't mind, maybe describing a little bit of the current landscape of cardiac surgery in Ghana, where the big centers are. Is it a popular choice for surgical residents to pursue a field in cardiac surgery right now? Just if you don't mind, just painting a picture of the state of cardiac surgery in the country. I think I would be quite interested in hearing.
okay. So cardiac surgery became more well established in Ghana in the early 1990s
Okay.
when a Ghanaian who trained as a cardiac surgeon, a cardiothoracic surgeon in Germany,
Okay.
came down finally to settle in Ghana and helped establish the National Cardiothoracic Center.
And
That's where
Accra.
I went. That's incredible.
Okay.
Accra. That's the premier heart center in Ghana, and it's trained a lot of doctors, both local and foreign, in the West African sub-region, and it does a whole range of surgeries: cardiac, thoracic, and then vascular.
Okay.
Currently, there are 6 residents in the fellowship training, and that's both Ghanaians and foreigners.
Interesting.
Of recent years, there's been a few hospitals that have come up in terms of cardiac surgery, both in the private and government
Okay.
sectors, and they are still working on developing their centers. So very soon they'll become well established, and then we'll have more cases being done in Ghana. So I'm happy about that fact.
Yeah. And that's
So
very exciting.
yeah,
Yeah.
exciting actually.
And
The
so
fact that
these are the centers that are going to be built will also be in Accra?
the centers are in Accra.
Oh, are in
So there
Accra.
are a few, yes, currently they are in Accra.
Okay. And before the 1990s, if you were a young Ghanaian child who had a congenital heart defect and needed surgery, where were those children sent for surgery? The ones who could afford it. What were the closest centers outside of Ghana?
Okay, so they would either be sent to South Africa or to India.
Okay,
Most
interesting. Okay, so nothing in Egypt or nothing closer than that.
no,
Okay.
no. Most of them were sent to South Africa or
For Ghana.
India.
Okay.
I mean, few found themselves in other countries, but talking about majority of the cases, it will be South Africa or India.
Okay. And has it become a more popular specialty among surgical trainees in Ghana? What is the current interest in cardiac surgery in the country?
Well, I think there's more room for improvement.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we need to work on getting more people interested in doing cardiac surgery. So there's
Yeah.
more room.
Yeah. I think it can be a tough sell for some people just because you work very hard and the hours are very long and you have to take a lot of call and you deal with very sick patients. It's a challenging field.
It's very time consuming. It takes up your energy, it takes up your time.
Your
And so
20s.
very and committed about doing cardiac surgery to
Yeah,
get into the field and to thrive there.
absolutely. So since you have come through, are there junior female cardiac surgeons who've come after you since you graduated?
Since I graduated, not yet. There are a few that have expressed interest in wanting to do cardiac surgery, and I can't wait for them to join the program.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully in a few years we get to see more Ghanaian female cardiothoracic surgeons.
Do you think that the climate has become even more favorable to female trainees than when you joined, when you started out on this path?
Yes, so I think so. I think that now people are more attuned to having females in cardiac surgery as a whole. And so I think the environment has definitely changed. It's more welcoming for females.
That's wonderful. And what do you think we could be doing differently as a specialty or as a profession really to attract more interest and enthusiasm from young people who might consider this as a career, but are discouraged by the lifestyle, the demands it takes in your youth, and so on? What do you think we could do differently as advocates for our specialty?
Well, I think mentorship is key. Speaking to residents, even medical students, right from an early stage, letting them know that we are present to help them. For the residents, taking them under our wings and guiding them through decision making and even improving their skills. Knowing that there's someone who would listen to them, someone who's ready to teach them, I
Yeah.
think can be reassuring and help one to make that choice or that move into cardiac surgery.
Sure. And then is the job market in Ghana favorable to cardiac surgery right now? Do trainees who graduate have an easy time finding employment after they finish their training?
Yes, they do. They do. It's favorable for cardiothoracic surgeons
Oh,
currently.
interesting. Wow, that's exciting to hear. I think that's at least something that we can assure young people who are interested in the field that there will be a job that they can line up once they graduate. So tell me, you've had this incredible start to your career, and no doubt it's the first of many wonderful things that you will accomplish. Tell me what you see, what would you like to do in the next couple decades? What's on your horizon?
Well, I would say that cardiac surgery is growing every day.
Yeah.
Globally, there are a wide range of surgeries being done, newer techniques with better outcomes, and so in the next couple of years to a decade, I'm looking at building my skill, improving myself, becoming better and better day in and day out. I would also want to work on contributing to the body of knowledge in terms of research. And
Okay.
then generally training the next generation of future cardiothoracic surgeons. I think that teaching and mentorship is very important. So
All
I'm
of those
looking
things.
at yes.
So tell me a little bit about research then. Is that something that is a formal part of your curriculum as a surgical trainee in Ghana or in medical school? Or how do people contribute to research?
Okay, so well, we encounter as surgical residents, we encounter um, research during our fellowship in cardiothoracic surgery or whichever subspecialty that you are doing.
Okay.
So before that, we do not do much concerning research. But then during your fellowship, it's a requirement to do a dissertation before you can set your board exam. So
Oh,
you have a dissertation and then present it to the board in
wow.
addition to the components of the exam. So that's our introduction into research. And then subsequently, you can join in on any ongoing research that's in the sense that if there's a consultant carrying out a research that you are interested in, you can always join. If you have an idea that you would want to develop, there are some consultants who are very research minded that you can approach, and then they would help you develop the concepts and carry it out.
So you did very well on your fellowship exam. So tell me, what was your field of research at that time? What were you interested in? What did you talk about?
Okay, so I work on chronic post-thoracotomy pain.
Okay.
That's chronic pain after
Yes.
thoracotomy. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
looked patients who had thoracotomy for one indication or the other. And then I looked at the incidents after 2 months after the surgery. And then I analyzed the factors that could have contributed to them developing chronic pain after. So that
Oh,
was interesting.
that's interesting. Is that something that you would want to continue when you say you want to do more research later in your career? Is that a project you would like to continue over the next couple of years, or what do your research interests include these days?
Yes, so I'm looking at finishing or more developing the concepts, more of the concepts in that line of thought to know more about chronic thoracotomy pain that's in the Ghanaian setting, and then also doing some work in the pediatric field, analyzing our data in terms of the pediatric cases that we've done, and then looking at the demographics, how we can improve our.
Sure. So that's an interesting question, because on the subject of data, I think there's a huge need for improved data in cardiac surgery globally. So in Ghana, is there a national database for cardiac surgery, or is it hospital based, or how does the country keep track of their outcomes?
Okay, so we don't have a national database yet, and that's one thing I would want to look at, getting a national database. I think that would be very helpful. Currently, we do a hospital-based data collection, and yeah, so that's what we work with. And I guess working in the Premier Heart Center, we have most of the data here. So I think that we have to work on the national database as soon as possible with upcoming heart centers in Accra.
Yeah.
So that we can get data in one place and then build upon it.
That's a really tremendous undertaking. But it's very important. It's such important work, because without knowing our basic data, it's hard to argue for devoting public health dollars to cardiac surgery if we don't know anything about our outcomes. So that's a very exciting project. It's such an important one, and I'm excited to see what you do with it over your career. And in that same spirit, how do you envision dividing your time between being clinically active and working on these research projects and teaching? In an ideal world, how would you strike that balance professionally? Because I think that's something a lot of people think about and struggle with too.
Yes, I think achieving balance between might be challenging, but I think it comes down to prioritizing and setting goals and maybe timelines. Know what you want to achieve at any point in time, and then working to achieve that goal. Maybe there are some times that one aspect would suffer compared to the others, but then I think that applying dedication and then timelines would help to achieve somewhat of a balance amongst these three.
Yeah.
And for me, the clinical aspect is very important. It's my number one goal, operating, and then so operating and then teaching, then research. So the way cardiac surgery is structured in Ghana, at every point in time you are teaching. So we have our early morning rounds, It's both residents and consultants.
Mm.
We go around the patients, and then the resident is presenting and asks an attending or a consultant. You would ask questions and then correct or teach. And then in the OR, you are teaching also. Then we have these sessions for tutorials. So at every point in time, you are teaching and then you are operating. So what I personally would have to work on is finding time in between for research. And then I think that drawing strength from those who have gone ahead of you is important because people have done it, you can also do it. And so I'd have to find out how they were able to do it and then apply similar rules to me so that I can also achieve that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm asking the question because it's such a tough question. And I think so many people in academic medicine are struggle to strike a balance. And I think it's something that you struggle with over an entire career. Sometimes I think being clinically active is always the constant. And then how much of your time you're able to dedicate to research can sort of fluctuate wildly.
That's true.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's the same,
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
same here, same in
Yeah.
Ghana.
Yeah,
Finding that research, yes.
absolutely. Now, are you teaching residents and fellows at the same institution that trained you? The same hospital?
Yes,
Oh, that's
yes,
exciting.
to a large extent. So I'm not formally with the medical school,
Okay.
but then with the center, there are residents and that's both senior residents and junior residents
Yeah.
that are under me. I teach them, and then there are house of things who rotate to the floor. So I also teach them. Then there are online tutorials that I give as and when. So that's
Oh,
also
interesting. What online tutorials are you giving? On like mitral, you'll pick a topic and talk about it?
okay. So it depends on the group. Um, Medical students who want to learn something in cardiac surgery,
I see.
they would send either a topic or ask you to take take a topic yourself and then take them through it. And then there's this association that I'm now a patron of. Recently, I took them through atrial septal defects.
Wow.
So as a web, so um, those are not as frequent as being present with the residents or the house officers all the time and then teaching. But they're also exciting opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting to think about as global cardiac surgery expands, how we could be using online education in a way to reach more trainees and medical students and even fellows and more junior consultant surgeons. How we can improve specialty training online, I think, is an interesting thing to explore over the next couple decades.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in training myself, I joined a lot of webinars and then used a lot of YouTube videos to review some topics. So we should explore more how we can use the internet of technology to share knowledge across board.
Of course, of course. So I want to be sensitive of your time, Dr. Adinku, but I feel I would be remiss if I didn't ask you what advice you have to not only just female trainees going into cardiac surgery, but just young trainees all over the world who have a keen interest in this field and a passion for taking care of very sick patients and really dedicating themselves to this line of work. What sort of advice would you have for them?
Great. Well, I would say that yes, cardiac surgery is a very rigorous environment or specialty, But once they are passionate about it, that's part of it. Once they are passionate about it, they should get committed and dedicated to it because they are going to be doing this for the rest of their life. So definitely have they're passionate about so they do not struggle.
Yeah.
I'll say that be empathetic.
Yeah.
Listen to your patients, have compassion for them because they go through a lot. And it's when you understand where they are coming from or what they are going through that you can begin to help them. So being compassionate is very key. And then one will definitely have to be hardworking, have to work hard and to achieve good outcome for your patients. And then be open to learning from experiences and from anyone, not just your attendants, not just cardiac surgeons, but you learn so much from the perfusionists, the nurses, the anesthetists. Be open to learn from everyone, and then from experiences. Your takeaway from experiences shouldn't just be the bad experiences. It shouldn't just be the bad, but what good also came out of it. Something that happens negatively shouldn't bring you down completely. You should just find out rather how can I improve upon this? What can I do so that this never happens again to either me or to someone else? So takeaways from experiences are very important in becoming a cardiac surgeon. And yeah, I think with these qualities, one will be able to thrive very well in cardiac surgery.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an exciting time. I think we're seeing, more innovative technologies, more minimally invasive therapies, and more people being able to get to the stage of transplantation. I think it's a very exciting time to be in this field. And I'm sure after watching your videos and hearing you speak, there will be many, many young people who will suddenly overwhelm the cardiac surgery match process in Ghana.
So I hope so. It's very important that we have more cardiac surgeons on ground because then, especially in Ghana, then we can develop our subspecialty profile and help improve our outcomes and do more surgeries, a wide range of surgeries for our patients. So I'm looking forward to getting more cardiac surgeons on board.
I mean, me too. And I think it's amazing to think that not that long ago, a Ghanaian child would have been sent to India for cardiac surgery. And in really not that long of a time, now these surgeries are routinely being done in country with excellent results. And, when you think about the time span that they've been able to accomplish this over, it's really quite remarkable. It's very exciting to think about how much has been accomplished in such a short period of time and how much more can be accomplished in quite quickly, actually.
I think we've come far to the country in terms of cardiac surgery, but I think also that there's so much out there for us to imbibe and achieve locally. So we definitely cannot rest on our arms. We have to keep pushing and reaching out for the best. And I believe that cardiac surgery in Ghana is going to move forward. There are exciting times ahead.
Absolutely. Well, I have had such a tremendous pleasure getting to know you and hearing your own story. And I feel a renewed sense of excitement about the field just listening to you. So thank you so much for not only talking to me, but just for being just an incredible role model for so many young women out there who never imagined that they would be operating on a human heart, but find themselves as cardiac trainees too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been really lovely meeting you.
It's been really lovely meeting you, and I hope our paths cross in real life soon.
Yeah, very soon. You have to come to Ghana.
Yes. And thank you so much to your husband as well.
Yes. He's been such a big part of my journey, and I'm grateful to God for his life and his presence.
Yes, and hopefully one day I'll get to meet him too.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
All right, Dr. Adinku, thank you so much for your time, and I'm so excited to follow the rest of your career.
Thank you so much, Carissa, and regards to your family as well.
Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.